Hello everyone. EduBlocks is excited to be a part of this webinar, but you might be wondering who we are. EduBlocks bridges the gap between learning needs and academic success through integrative cognitive, literacy, and numeracy skills development, giving hope and peace of mind to families. We have over 35 years' experience in the educational field and offer services both online and in person at 40 outlets across Southern Africa. Our unique programs lay the cognitive building blocks of concentration, perception, memory, and logical thinking, which are essential to every child's academic journey.
Welcome and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this evening's webinar, which is the 5th installment in our 7-part series on how to improve your child's reading. Tonight's session is proudly brought to you by Kibooks.online, the awesome new digital online reading platform for children, and in association with EduBlocks, our partner, and the leaders in specialized reading and math services. If you've missed the first sessions, no worries, you'll find it on our webinar link at www.qualibooks.co.za. Simply click on the webinars tab and access it from there. This evening's session and all the future sessions will also be recorded. Tonight we take a look at the reading strategies that are necessary for reading comprehension. I'm your host, Chris de Beer, and like you, I'm really looking forward to hearing from tonight's guest and what she plans to share with us. It's sure to be of great benefit as we continue with our journey to help improve the overall reading and comprehension abilities of our children. As ever, before we kick off tonight's proceedings, a few general announcements. Firstly, visit our website at www.qualibooks.co.za and click on the webinars link for more info and to diarize the future dates in advance. Each session will be recorded, as I mentioned, and made available from our website 24 hours after the event. So you can see tonight's recording for those that have missed it and people that you know that aren't able to attend, they can access it from tomorrow evening. The remaining 2 sessions will be brought to you on the first Thursday of each month until August, same time, same place. We'll not have a question and answer session. However, feel free to drop any related questions you may have into the chat box, and with time allowing, we will answer them at the end of tonight's webinar. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and stay up to date with everything we are currently busy with. During the session, we will post the relevant links and information into the chat box. Obviously, you won't go away empty-handed. For those of you that have been with us for the duration, there's always going to be a takeaway up for grabs, exclusively on offer to you as our loyal participants, and details of these will be made available at the end of the session, so be sure to stay with us throughout. Kibooks.online. Our mandate with Kibooks.online is to help develop a reading culture amongst our children. Kibooks.online was created with a unique vision. Rather than following a formula and creating something in accordance with a mechanically followed rule or style, we wanted to turn a traditional model on its head and create a digital reading platform that is exciting, original, creative, and captive. The platform is not a library as such. Instead, it offers unlimited access to thousands of top quality books, which are bright, colorful, interesting, with compelling content to be accessed and enjoyed anywhere and at any time. Therefore, children no longer need to rely on limited access within the context of the school environment. It means they can have 24-hour access, be it in the comfort of their own home, at a friend's place, the local library, or even better, when they're away on holiday. The platform also caters to all 11 South African languages, and importantly, it is data-free. For more on this, visit www.kibooks.online and explore our world of books by clicking on the demo login button, or watch the video tutorial for more detail, or simply email us at info@qualibooks.co.za. Last but not least, download the app from the Google Play Store for Android and the App Store for iPhones. It just makes for a better experience, especially if you are on mobile devices. So we encourage you to download the app. Obviously, you download for free, and you can play around on the demo side, or stick around for tonight's takeaways, and you'll be able to have full access. The information relating to all of this is going to be in the chat box. Now that we've highlighted Kibooks as the tool, you need the skill sets to use it optimally. And tonight's expert is EduBlocks' Hannelie Bronner, joining us from Cape Town. She's a learning needs specialist with more than 20 years experience, and was a co-head teacher at the Chartwood Special School in Surrey, England. She manages her own educational clinic for children with learning difficulties in Cape Town, and has a Master's of Arts in Education degree attained from the London Open University. Hannelie, warmest welcomes to you. On this cold winter's evening, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Let me just share my, there we go, get it ready. Hey, good evening, everybody. Tonight we're looking at effort plus wrong tools equals poor results. Reading strategies for comprehension. Now, I'm presenting and I'm thanking Marika van der Resthuizen from Pretoria North for helping with the content. When we talk about reading comprehension, we are talking about extracting meaning from text. That's literally what it means. And it's the ultimate goal of reading. You want to read to understand. Now, at a basic level, it requires good reading skills, accuracy, fluency, speed, and a wide vocabulary knowledge. Now, in the previous 5 webinars, we've looked at all those different elements. We've looked at how to improve your reading. We've looked at the auditory and the vision elements involved when you read. We've also looked at learning sight words or vocabulary knowledge. And this evening, we are starting to look at applying it when reading for comprehension. Now, at a higher level, you will need to understand the main idea and sequence. You'll need to apply, analyze, and evaluate, and then also then create your own content following based on your understanding. And this session, the higher ability, is going to come next week with our webinar 6 with Dr. V.P. Wall, and we'll talk a little bit about him later. But tonight we're looking at the process of reading for meaning, and that's often involved when children have to answer comprehension tests. We're talking about active engagement with the test, having a strategy for approaching the text, and then how to practice these skills and develop your expertise. And then lastly, reading for meaning already starts before children can read, just exposing children to books from a very young age, reading to them and asking them questions about the text, asking them to point out pictures, etc., already start developing. But tonight we're looking at readers and we're looking at how they approach text. Okay, so evaluate yourself and your children, whether your child is ready to start learning how to read for meaning. So first of all, does your child read regularly? So do they have a wide knowledge base, a lot of words that they know, so that when they read any text, they at least can comprehend the language that's being used in a text? So reading regularly is important. Can they maintain concentration while reading? Do they read with good accuracy? Do they read at good speed and with expression? And lastly, do they understand what's being read? Like I said before, do they have a wide vocabulary knowledge? So if your answers to this is yes, then we can move on and we can start learning to read for meaning. If the answer to them is no, then you might have to first give attention to these areas and make sure that your child is a confident reader before you start practicing these skills. Okay, so to develop your reading for meaning skills, you need to be able to answer questions, and the following skills are important: skimming, scanning, intensive reading, sentence formulation, checking for sense, and then feedback and correction. We're going to go through each of these steps separately, and then we're going to apply them so that you know how to use them with your children. So the first skill is skimming. Now, skimming means literally to just read quickly so that we can get an overall idea and a general understanding of text. We don't want to read it in detail. We don't want to read every word. We just want to get the gist of it. It's also called skip reading. So you kind of skip while you read. Now, longer text with multiple paragraphs, you're only going to read the captions, the subtitles. You might read the first page, you might read the last page, just to get the gist of the book. If you read articles especially. And then in shorter text, you might read the first and the final sentences of paragraphs to get an idea. With very short text like comprehension tests, you might want to read selected words. Now, the words we're going to focus on are nouns and verbs, and then often some adjectives and adverbs that jump out at you as being important. We're going to ignore the functional words, words like it, does, he, she, etc. So let's go and apply it just in a short text so that you can see how it works. Okay, oops, very important. Deliberately skip text that provide details, stories, data, elaboration. You only want the facts. Okay, so if we look at our text here, The Amazing Brain, we're going to start by just looking at the first the caption, the first sentence. Now, if you look at the next, we're talking about an example, and then it talks about a lot of data, which we can skip. And where we end up is literally just the last sentence. So we have, your brain is faster and more powerful than a supercomputer. The activity in your brain never stops. Your neurons create and send more messages than all the phones in the entire world. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, this really just kind of tells me what it is about. So just reading these two sentences gives me a main idea. But if you want to read for more detail at this moment, I'm going to ignore the fact that there's elaboration and just show you the second technique, which is to look at nouns and to look at verbs. So if you read brain, supercomputer, kitten, counter, step, stove. So just by looking at these words, you already get the gist of what is going on. Very good way of working with your children. And then what they can do is they can, as they read and a word jumps out at them that they don't know, they can underline that word and you can discuss that before you move on. Okay, so very good exercise to do with your children. Next, scanning. Now, scanning is a little bit more intensive than skimming, but for scanning, we are looking for particular information. We are literally going with a magnifying glass and trying to find specific words. It's also called search reading. And how you can work with your child is to have a timed exercise, have a piece of text, and ask your child just to look for particular words that's in the text and see if how many of those words they can find in the time that you've given them. They can identify keywords in a question to look for as well. And then rather than reading the whole text, they just find the keyword. And they can use a finger to help with tracking because that helps you keep your place and helps you to find it faster. So going back to your amazing brain, same text, and we have 3 questions at the bottom. So what do we call microscopic cells? Where are signals coming from? And what form of technology are neurons compared to? So if we look at the keywords in the questions, it's microscopic cells. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and find microscopic cells by scanning. In the second one, signals. So again, we're going to read and find the signals, and there's 2 of them. And then we're going to look for a form of technology. Now, form of technology, the words might not be there, but a form of technology might be in the text. So we're going to read it and scan it to find a form of technology. So without having read the whole text, we have found particular pieces of information that's useful to us to use. Next step. Now that we've found our keywords, we're going to go and do intensive reading. Now, intensive reading is reading your text more slowly for detail and for understanding. So in the context of answering questions, we've now identified the keywords through scanning. Now we're going to read the whole question to make sure that we know exactly what's being asked. And then we're going to read the whole sentence that contains the keyword to identify the answer. If we can find the answer in that sentence, then we're done. If we can't, then we're going to read the whole paragraph around it to see if that gives us clues. Okay, so looking at our 3 questions we had, if we look at the first one, microscopic cells, so if we now look at what do we call microscopic cells? So very quickly, you can see that your brain contains about 100 billion microscopic cells called neurons. So our answer is really quick. It is neurons. If you look at your second question, where are the signals that are coming from that your brain is accessing? So where is the signals coming from? So you look at both your sentences, the first one, accessing the signals coming from your eyes, and looking at the next one, whenever you dream, laugh, think, see, or move, it's because tiny chemical and electrical signals are racing. Now, if we look at which one of them answer the question of where does it come from, it is the first one, so accessing the signals coming from your eyes. But here we need that little bit of a higher order thinking, because does it only come from your eyes? In this text, yes, from your eyes. But if you think a little bit wider, you might also know that it might also come from your other senses, through touch, through taste, through smell. So a better answer would be that it comes from your senses. So your senses send you the signals. And what form of technology? We have found phones. And that's a very simple one, very little thinking involved in this one. So you can just use that as your answer. Okay. Now, next step is to formulate your answers. And that's very important because a lot of children can understand the question, they can find the answer, but they really, really struggle to give it back, and particularly giving it back in full sentences, because full sentences are really important when you answer comprehension tests. Punctuation, starting your sentence with a capital and ending it with a full stop. You'll be surprised how many children in trying to answer the question forget those very essential things. Then as a strategy, what they can do is they can do partial copying of the question. So if we look at just one of those questions, we ask the question, what do we call the microscopic cells? And you can answer by starting it with the microscopic cells are called. So practicing this skill with your children, literally just giving them a question and asking them to practice changing it into an answer sentence, into a statement, is a really good exercise to get them to learn how to formulate their answers. Okay, now once they've answered the question, you need to check it with them. So read the question again, and then directly after the question, you read the answer. Because then you can hear the question and the answer together, and it will help you clarify whether it makes sense or not. Now, your real question that we want to ask, does it make sense? So, does it grammatically make sense? Have you answered in a full sentence? Often children start the sentence with because. Please practice with your child not to start with because. You're starting in the middle of a sentence. You need to give a beginning of the sentence. Punctuation, does it start with a capital? Does it end with a full stop or a question mark or exclamation mark, whatever is needed? And does it have the punctuation in between? Have you answered the question in full? Now, this is particularly important where you have two-part questions, because often they will say, give me an example of this fact, and then they might say to you, and give me the evidence of your answer, or tell me the why, or give me your opinion. And what children will do is they will focus on the first part of the question, they'll answer it, and then they'll forget to go back to the question to answer the second bit. So it's really important to go back and see if we've answered the question in full. Then they need to look at whether there's any unnecessary information. Often what children will do is they will just read the sentence around and they will just copy everything in that sentence instead of focusing on what the question is actually asking. And what you don't want your teacher to do is to have to go and pick out the information that's relevant. They will just want you to be able to filter and fill in the necessary information. So get your child to say what is actually just needed to answer the question in full. And then coherence. Coherence is extremely important. Can your child express themselves succinctly? And that's a skill that you need to practice as well. Get your children to answer questions and then get them to practice and rephrase that question until they're happy that it's clear, that it's fully answering in the shortest, most succinct way possible. Very important skill for you to practice with your child. Okay, and lastly, feedback and correction. you get your child to answer it with you. You help them then to correct their answers. Okay. If they're correct, you move on. That's easy. If not, try not to give your child the answer. Try to literally just do the whole process with them. Go with them, do the scanning, go and do the detailed reading again. Ask them questions. What do you think? Which word do you think we're going to find? Which section of the text do we need to do? Do you think it's this word or do you think it's that word, and why? So go through them with questioning and lead them to get to the answer themselves. Okay, and then the same with your formulation in the end. When they're practicing, get them then to try and see what they've done wrong. Okay, now, like we said, the next step is developing a deep understanding of text. So we're talking about Bloom's taxonomy, is describe and discuss, compare and contrast, predict, apply, demonstrate, analyze, evaluate, and lastly, the highest level, create. Now, to do these skills also take practice. The reading strategies that we've gone through this evening are just skills that your child can practice to find information, to answer questions, formulate their sentences. That's really what this is about. But it's not about a deep understanding. A deep understanding requires a different kind of process altogether. And Dr. V.P. Wall, who will be presenting next week's session, will do Learn to Read, Read to Learn. And his sessions are based on Feuerstein, the mediated learning. And just one little quote, which is intelligence is not a static structure, but an open dynamic system that can continue to develop. And often people will limit their children and they'll say, oh, but they're just not good with understanding. Well, it's a skill that can develop like every other, like the reading strategies that we've talked about this evening. But just looking at our strategies, Keybooks' library, of course, is the really appropriate way to practice. Just take any book at your child's level, get your child to read it with you, ask them questions, get them to find the answer in the text. Ask them to find particular words that you've underlined or circled. I hope there's some tools, but otherwise just ask them and say to them, can you find this word for me very, very quickly? Let's see if you can do it in 10 seconds. And get them to find words, get them to formulate answers, and try and get books that your child is interested in. And if you can get some factual books, if you can get some books around geography and science, and Keybooks have loads of those, it's a very good way to prepare your child to answer questions about content subjects in school and to get their wide vocabulary developed, to get them confident with finding information and using these strategies. So I hope you've learned something this evening, and I hope that you can go and practice it with your children. And then I look forward to Dr. Wall next month presenting a deeper understanding. Thank you very much.
Hanli, thank you. Thank you for those insights. I tell you what, when I listen to these sessions and yours, it makes me want to go back to school. A lot of things that you mentioned there, I remember when you were talking about starting a sentence with because. I remember that being drilled into our heads, how you do not do that. And it's wonderful that those rules still apply to this day. And it's so important, folks. And I hope that you got a lot of food for thought out of this session. You know, and again, if you've missed anything, don't worry. The recordings are available on our website from tomorrow onwards. If you feel that there are people that should have been here, friends, family, that have missed out on something, direct them to the website, let them have a look at it. It is going to be available because this is very important information. It's all about helping our children become better readers, better at the academics and all of that. And it starts with reading and being able to read and reading properly. And this is where the skill sets of Hanli and the EduBlocks team, you know, come in to really make that and sort of holistically enable our children to become better at what it is that they're expected to do. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at. So thank you very much for sharing, Hanli. I do appreciate that. Folks, I do apologize. I just need to get a light on here. You know, moving along, you know, I mentioned at the start of the session that no one is going to go away empty-handed. Thank you for being with us. And tonight, EduBlocks is offering a discount of up to 30% on both its on-site and online products as on display currently. The discount code is indicated at the top left, and it is available to all first-time clients until the 7th of July, 2022. So hurry along and take advantage of this offer. The voucher, together with their contact detail, is included and will also be placed into the chat box for your ease of reference. Kibooks.online will also be making available a free reading subscription valid until the 6th of July 2022, the eve before the next session, for you to enjoy, enabling you and your children to explore, read, and have fun with the platform. Simply go to www.kibooks.online and enter the following user details as shown on the screen. And that means you will have full access to the website or to the platform until the 6th of July. So get on with it, explore. There is a lot of content that you will be able to enjoy, have fun, and start practicing these skills that you are learning through the webinars, and see where your children are at and what sort of assistance and support they need going forward. So please make sure that you take full advantage of the offer as you see the offers as they've been presented. As I said, the information is readily available. I think there is time, if I'm not mistaken, hosts, for a couple of questions. Annelie, if I can put you back in the crosshairs for a second.
Sure.
If I can ask you a couple of questions that were raised earlier on, if I can, I'll just read them off to you. One of them is, what reading materials can I use to practice these skills with my child?
Yeah, now, like we said, Keybooks is your starting point. I mean, it's a library of books. It's got a very wide range, covers all the different topics, and you can find books at your child's level. So this is a really good starting point. Like I said, take a page or eventually take the book, get your child to practice these skills. Read the first page, read the final page, and see if they can get a sense of what the book is all about. Then take them and to read actually just the first sentence, maybe of a page, and the last sentence of the page, and see if they can get a sense of what's going on. Talk to them, get them to use their logic to try and piece things together to get sense. Then, of course, you can also use your children's textbooks. A very good way, even for summaries, is to follow that same process. You want to follow the process of first understanding what a chapter is about by looking at the captions, looking at the first paragraph, looking at the final paragraph. Then you want to skim read the whole chapter by just looking at your nouns and verbs to get a sense of them. And then you want to do your detailed reading. So it's also similar steps to make summaries. You would find your key idea, which is your centerpiece, which is your caption. Then you want your branches, and your branches are what's jumping out at you for each paragraph that you read. What is the paragraph about? And then your detailed reading is all the smaller branches that you fill in, all the connections you make, all the associations you make. So the same steps that we followed for answering a comprehension test is the same steps that you can follow when you do summaries. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think there's a couple more, Annelie. I sort of check some. Yeah, I don't know if you've actually answered it already with what you've just said here, but could the reading strategies help my child to study more effectively? I don't know if you've got anything else.
I've actually answered both in one, haven't I? Already.
You pretty much answered that one. So I think
yes, I think you can go on.
Yeah, there's one more then. What else besides what you mentioned? Is there anything else that I can do to help my child develop their comprehension skills? Also
yes, absolutely. When you're watching television, if you're watching the news, or if you're watching any programs on the TV, or reading a newspaper, it's very good to get your child involved, get them to watch it with you, get them to read the newspaper with you, and then follow those kind of same steps with them. Ask them questions about it. Ask them to find the answers. Ask them to sequence things. So even in your key books, if you're reading the book, get them just to give you the chronology of the book. What happened first, second, third, and then ask them questions to expand. So on the characters, maybe the motivation of the characters, to describe a character, to predict what a character might be thinking, feeling, and what do you think might happen after the book is finished? What do you think might have happened before the book? So that the children can extend their thinking into a much wider range than just to the confines of the book. And the same with articles, the same with programs. Talk to your children, talk wider, get them to develop a wide vocabulary and wide interests. Because the wider they read and the wider they watch and discuss, the better they will do in comprehension tests as well. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that, Annelie. I don't think there are any more questions, but yeah, this is pretty comprehensive. And what I'm seeing, I'm just having a look at the corner of my eye. I see there's already 10 people online on the platform, which is nice to see. So this is definitely the kind of thing that works. So I think maybe before I close, if I can just share one thing is, folks, with what Annelie was talking about, the kind of materials that you want to have a look at. And Neil, indulge me for a second, or host, should I say. I'd like to share my screen. If I can, I trust everyone can see my screen. On the Kibbooks platform, when you click on the Let's Read login button, it takes you straight into the platform. If you scroll down a little bit, you have a look at one of the panels, and it's called the Leveled Readers. You can see we've got sliders all over the place. For those of you who've got DSTV, Netflix, you'll instantly realize how easy it is to navigate this platform and how child-friendly it is. So, what she was referring to, there's a ton of fiction and non-fiction. Choose a book out of these leveled readers. They're nice. They're leveled for your ages. Find something suitable for your child. Click on the book, and it literally opens like a normal reader, as you can see. I'm going to quickly skip to the end because these books tend to have ideas for reading, and this is where the comprehension strategies come in. You'll see there's reading objectives, spoken language objectives, build a context for reading, understand and apply reading strategies. So there's a lot of books that are, and it's strictly library. However, a lot of the resources do have sort of Q&As and sort of assistance at the end of the books, so your child can go through these books at leisure and you can take it through to them. So it's very interactive, and obviously part of what we're doing is really just encouraging parents to it takes the whole community. It takes all of us to enable our kids to become better readers. So thank you very much again, Annelie, for your contributions tonight, for EduBlocks for their participation. We're really looking forward to the next session as well. So folks, please jump on and make full use of this. That's pretty much it. Nothing else from my side tonight. We trust you've enjoyed being with us, and remember to join us for the next and sadly the penultimate session, which is going to be all about the comprehension strategies with Dr. Vol. It's going to be a good one. Thursday evening, the 7th of July, same time, same place. So until next month, thank you for joining us. Stay warm and good night.